Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. Allegra Ramos here of Beyond Your Wildest Dreams. And thank you for joining me wherever you are listening. And if you are listening to the recording of this does go up as the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. This will be episode 130, 130. Oh my God. Can you believe it? Episode 130 when it goes up. So be sure to like, subscribe, rate. It helps me to know what content you're responding to. And it helps that whole algorithm, thing. And if you're joining me for the first time, welcome. If you are listening live, I will see any comments that you put, no matter where you are listening. So feel free to chat it up. And if you comment to the recording, I will see those eventually as well. Sometimes the notifications aren't as timely, but I will do my best to respond to whatever you're commenting. I am now heard, by the way, in over 60 countries. Thank you to everyone who listens. Someday I'd love to visit all those countries because there are countries all over that I have never been to. Thank you to the people in Jordan who are listening. Brazil is actually my second biggest country behind the United States. So thank you, Brazil. Molto obrigado. And yeah, if you're joining me for the first time, my name is Allegra Ramos, and I am a brain science-based productivity and time management expert. And what that means is that I just help you save time and energy. Isn't that so much easier to understand than the whole big long thing? But it sounds impressive. So I have written these 4 short read books that, one of my pet peeves is when you read a 350-page book and you get to the end and you say, that should have been 50 pages. Yeah, I can't stand that. So I wrote these short reads all designed to be read in an hour or less, and they're all workbooks because brain science shows that you learn better when you actually do rather than just sit there and passively consume. So you will be doing a little bit of work when you read these, but I promise you will save time and energy. And who doesn't need more of both? And I'm so excited to bring to the stage today a friend of mine, Diane Allen. She's the author of the book Flow, Unlock Your Genius, Love What You Do. And I had the pleasure of speaking on a panel with Diane earlier this year in March, and we hit it off. And I'm so excited to bring her, Diane Allen.
Yay!
Insert wild applause here.
So fun to be with you again.
Yeah, so great to see you, Diane. And Diane has a violin hanging on the wall behind her because she, in another lifetime, in her earlier iteration, I don't know, you still play. So it's not like you don't play. But she was a professional violinist and a concert master. And can you please explain for people what a concert master is?
Oh, yeah. The concert master is the lead violinist in an orchestra. And I had such incredible training as a violinist in New York City training. New York City's training is known throughout the world. And despite it being like super cutthroat and exhausting and full of daily criticism, it's what shaped me into the musician that I am today. And my biggest issue is that I was feeling bulletproof with my New York City violin training. I went to go and audition to get into the job of my dreams, to be a member of an orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
And my nerves got the better part of me. I mean, like how many people have that issue, right?
Yeah.
Like your high skill level and how you perform and the gap, right?
Yeah. Performance
So
anxiety.
my story, which we'll talk about in a minute here, but
Yes.
my story is about closing this gap, and we'll just leave it at that for now.
Okay, and just if you've had the opportunity to go see a orchestra play, the concertmaster comes out before the conductor, right?
Yes.
They're carrying the violin and
So
they bow.
so there's all kinds of formality with
Yes.
classical music. So the concertmaster is the lead violinist, second in command to the conductor, and it was my job to translate the vision that the conductor had into actionable steps.
Mm-hmm.
And it was expected of me to be at the top of my talent because, it's like a giant ripple effect. If I do great, everybody else does great. If I don't do great, it kind of has this ripple effect.
Yes.
So it's a high pressure job on a high precision instrument. And yes, I was the liaison between the orchestra and the audience as well. So I was like the face of the orchestra as well. So we could talk more about that too.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I actually had a really interesting experience watching a concertmaster work earlier this year. But first, before we get into that, let's do our little game that I like to do at the top of every podcast, which is to pull a card from my little deck of sayings. As you all know, I never peek, so I have no idea what it's going to say. And then Diane and I are going to answer it. It is not joy that makes us grateful, it is gratitude that makes us joyful. Brother David Steidel Rest. It is not joy that makes us grateful. It is gratitude that makes us joyful. That's such perfect timing, right? As we come into Thanksgiving. It is not joy that makes us grateful. It is gratitude that makes us joyful.
Wow.
Do you want to go first or shall I go first?
I have a recent ritual that I've been doing.
Yes, tell me.
And you know how it's important to do things like right before you go to sleep and right when you wake up, like if you really want to set an intention in your life. And so, this is based on some information that I had heard from somebody else, but and it's using I am statements. So what I've been doing is I am wealth, which is not about being wealthy. It's more about being in my own value, like really embracing my value. So it goes, let's see, I usually do this in my head. I haven't done it out loud. So I am wealth. I am peace. Okay. And the advice about having peace right after wealth is because sometimes our systems get a little jarred. Like we don't think we have high value, but we really do. Right. So the advice is to then immediately follow it with I am peace. So I am wealth, I am peace, to ground it. And then I have been saying I am joy and I am grateful. Now I realize I need to flip it around. I am grateful
Interesting.
and I am joy.
Yes.
Thank you for reading that. That's going to help me hone that little ritual that I have.
Well, this makes me think of something that I had seen somewhere else. It's been so long, I don't remember where I saw it. And it's a great gratitude practice, which is taking your to-do list and turning it into a gratitude list. So instead of I have to walk the dog, I get to walk the dog. Instead of I have to weed my garden, I get to weed my garden. And I remember when I heard that, I was like, yes, that's such a shift because I have a garden. I have a dog. How lucky am I to
So
be able
grateful.
to take care of them, right? Oh my gosh, it makes it makes me tear up a little bit.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you, Brother David Steidel Rest, for that reminder about joy and gratitude. So I had a really interesting behind the scenes concertmaster experience earlier this year, Diane. I don't know if you know, but I have sung in a choir for many years. I sang in a choir when I was a child as well. And we performed at Carnegie Hall in I think it was like April or May now. I don't know. This year has been whew, but just after I'd seen you.
Okay.
And, the interesting thing was that we're just a choir. We don't have an orchestra that travels with us. So the orchestra were professionals who are paid to be there.
Yep.
And they support multiple choirs who sing.
Okay.
And so it was really fascinating because this conductor, this was the first time or not the first time, they'd worked with them the whole week. But when we saw them, they'd only worked with the orchestra for 3 or 4 days at this point. So this is not their orchestra. And so anytime something went wrong with the orchestra, the conductor looked at the concertmaster. What's going on with your orchestra? Because it was that person's orchestra, not the conductor. And it was fascinating sort of watching the energy flow and the conductor prove that they were worthy of this amazing orchestra and earning that trust all in such a short amount of time. It felt very high stakes, even though, we weren't being paid to be there or anything like that.
Right.
But it was fascinating.
Fascinating. So to break this down into corporate terms,
Yes.
Okay, so you'd think of the conductor as the CEO, right? But the concert master, so that there's different sections in the orchestra, and each of those sections has their own leader, and
Yes.
each of those leaders would be like the middle managers.
Mhm, mhm.
So I was a middle manager as well as a leader, right? Second in command, I guess you could say VP, right?
Right.
Um,
Or
to the
COO.
or COO, I was thinking that too, Chief
Yeah.
Operating Officer. So but I was also the lead for all of the middle managers.
Right.
Yeah, so there's like a very structured way of, like, let's say if the lead of the cellos has something to say, they would most likely say it to me, and then I would say it to the conductor. It would be
Right.
kind of like that.
Yeah, and that was very visible in this
Yeah.
situation. It was fascinating. Okay, so let's talk about flow.
Can we just stop a second? You got to sing at Carnegie Hall.
Oh, yes, I did. I got to sing at Carnegie Hall. It was really cool. I think the really fun part of it was visiting New York,
Yeah.
as because I've been to New York many, many times. My best friend lives there. My sister-in-law lived there for many years. So I've always been there, but as a tourist. So it was fun to get to be there as someone with a purpose. And we were there the week before because we were rehearsing every day. So I had to take the subway to get to my rehearsal spot, and then, go to have lunch and dinner and then go back and rehearse some more. And it was fun to experience New York in a totally different way. And because it was during the school year, my husband and daughter couldn't come, which at first I was sad about.
But
But it was so fun to just get to be like, the single musician working in New York for, to play that for
yeah.
a week was really fun. And I was not that familiar with Vivaldi, and
Okay.
it gave me a really new appreciation for Vivaldi. I really, really enjoyed it. And his music has surprisingly modern elements to it. Like, there was one song we were singing, and it goes do 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 do
Oh,
do,
uh-huh.
and I almost felt like I was singing a Beatles song, like a
Oh.
Yellow Submarine era song, Sergeant Pepper's era song. Like, it was so
Uh-huh.
playful and fun.
Yeah.
And then we did no. Um,
Oh.
sorry, I had to throw that in there, my editorializing. But
Yeah, that's
I
fine. We all have our own. I honestly, yeah, that this part of my story is that I don't play classical music anymore. I got burned out on it, but
Mhm.
I totally get it. And there's a saying, musicians like, "How do you get to Carnegie Hall?" And it's like practice, practice, practice. But I think I never performed at Carnegie Hall, but my craziest concert that I've ever performed in New York City was in St. Patrick's Cathedral on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh my gosh, how
It
amazing.
was wild. And yes, the priests were drunk.
What music did you play?
I don't remember. I
I'm
don't
like, "What's St.
remember.
Patrick's Day music?" That's
It
funny.
might have just been arrangements of Irish music, but that was a really long time ago. Anyways, okay, I interrupted, but yeah, that is a huge experience, and I just wanted to acknowledge you for that. You
Oh,
were
thank
on
you.
stage on Carnegie Hall, and I've never been on stage. So,
The funny ways that life works out. So, okay, so flow, unlock your genius. I just have to say, when you spoke, I don't know if it was when the first time I heard you speak, or if it was watching something you said later on online. By the way, if you are in LinkedIn, look Diane up on LinkedIn. She's always posting nuggets. However, you helped me identify something for me about flow, which is something I sort of always knew, but just, knowing it in your heart and then knowing it in your head is always a different experience. And so it moved something that I had intuited into, like, my head, and consciously, like, oh, okay. And for me, my entry to flow is anything to do with words. Like, I just love words. Words to me are the greatest puzzle in life. And so it helps explain why I'm able to sit in front of a computer and type away, whether I'm writing a book or doing a presentation or, working on a joke. For those of you who know, I do stand up comedy for fun. And yeah, so that was so helpful to me because
I
now, anytime I sit down to work, I'm like, I get to get into flow.
Yes, I do. We had that conversation.
Okay.
I do remember that vividly. So, let's just get on the same level first. Like the word flow is used to mean so many different things.
Yes.
It could be fluff, it could be woo woo, it could be like the gal who we've seen in all of the Progressive insurance ads, right? Flow. Um, there's a saying, "Go with the flow,"
Yes.
okay, which I think has it has its places. It could also be like not good, because basically when you're going with the flow, you're actually kind of relinquishing your identity and just kind of
Mm,
like, all right, we're just going to be passive here and then see where it goes, right?
right.
There's a time and place for that. The flow state is very active. It is
Mm,
the complete opposite of going with the flow. Being in your flow state is when you are deeply engaged with your signature strengths, you're at the top of your talent, and you are steeped in purpose. And it is a branch of positive psychology, and it has been extensively researched by neuroscientists. And so, positive psychology is um, taking a look at what's working well, reverse engineering it so you can
mhm.
create more of that goodness in your life. It's like, psychology started as like, let's fix the problems, let's dive
Right.
in and all the dark stuff, right?
Yes.
And positive psychology came much later, which was like, no, let's go the other way. Like,
Yeah.
this is great, right?
Yeah, it's only like what, 20, 30 years old, positive psychology? It's very new.
Yeah, I think it's a little older than that. Martin Seligman is the person who coined the term positive psychology, and I can't remember. He's got a Wikipedia. If you're curious to go
Mhm.
nerdy
Mhm.
on that and see when that happened. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, that's a mouthful, is the first psychologist who did extensive research into the flow state, and that was beginning in the 70s, 80s, and 90s is when he did a lot of his research. Anyways, it's an optimal state of mind when you feel your best and you perform your best. And we want to make sure, when a musician gets into the music, they're getting into the flow state. When an athlete gets into the zone, they're getting into the flow state. And we
Right.
expect artists and writers and revolutionary scientists and, to get into flow. But it turns out everyone is wired for this. So my claim to fame is making it accessible to all of us. And like you said, like a little bit of awareness, right? We're just going to give you enough awareness so that you could recognize it in your life, and then you can have the tools to recreate it in your life.
Well, and one thing you mentioned in the book is the fact that stress narrows focus and makes ideation harder, whereas flow opens it up. And so let's go back to your story of being a concert violinist
Yeah.
and when that moment when stress hit. Can you tell us that story?
Well, the story is actually when I had those performance nerves. So I
Mhm.
graduate from college, right? And my nerves get the better part of me because the way the narrowness of whatever chemicals get dumped into your system when you're, in the hot seat,
Right,
right?
when you're stressed, the cortisol and all of that.
Yeah, that cocktail of
Mhm.
stuff that gets us kind of like in a frozen,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, so I could not, under the pressure of auditions, show my high skill level. It was like, whoa, I just did all of this training. I just worked so hard for so many years, and I can't even show it,
Mhm.
right? I can't even show it. It was so, and I'm sensitive, I'm, I'm more sensitive than I care to be, okay, I can't eat gluten, I can't eat dairy, I get nervous, right? We are sensitive types, we're sensitive people, right? And so the quest for me was, okay, how do I overcome this? And I was sitting last chair in orchestras because I was doing freelance orchestras. Most likely the group that you played with in New York was a freelance orchestra. Those were the kind of gigs I were doing, traveling to different orchestras. And I was literally sitting last chair because of my inability to like not be nervous during an audition. So my son, he's 6 weeks old. I'm sleep deprived. Hadn't touched the violin, and I scheduled an audition like 6 weeks after he was born. Like, what was I thinking? And that was the day, like from out of the blue, as luck would have it. I got so immersed in the music that underneath my fingers, it was like the violin was singing by itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it was like it was what I experienced when I perform and play music when I'm not nervous, you know, where
Right.
all my hard work and practice and passion just magically come to life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people, how many of you that are listening to this, number one, have botched things up because of nerves, and number two, that you had all of this training and you're like using a drop of it now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Right.
what has happened in your life that all of a sudden you're using only a drop of this, and we get numb to it, and it's like a slow decline that we're not even aware of that it's going on. We're just kind of coping and like, okay, well, I guess I'll be doing this now because my dreams were up
Right.
here and now I'm down here, and right. And these things that get in our way, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
The human, to be human, right? Anyways, so at that audition, they hired me on the spot, and that was for the concertmaster of an orchestra, and so I literally went in one audition from sitting last chair to sitting first chair,
Wow.
and
That's amazing.
and it was getting into my flow state. So it became the tool, right? To should we get into the neurobiology?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Always.
So let's see. Let's start with how do you know when you're in flow? You lose sense of time. You just love what you're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You lose the sense of self. You're so immersed, like literally, this is the neuroscience of flow. Literally, your inner critic gets turned off, and your fight or flight response gets turned off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The peak performance hormones that get released when you're in flow are anandamide, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine. So we experience euphoria, motivation, peak performance, and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Another key indicator of being in flow is ideation, right? In a world where 95% of thoughts repeat, when you are in flow, you have new thoughts.
Yeah.
With regards to your work in productivity, right? When people are in flow, things just come together with a sense of ease. And I think everybody here has experienced when you get more done in 30 minutes than you had last 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you do that more often? That's being in flow. Okay. So like that was a random moment, right?
Right. How can you make it happen?
As a violinist, I had to make it happen. So this
Mm-hmm.
is why I reverse engineered how to get into flow. So we want you to be able to turn it on yourself. Couple more. So we have another key indicator is, well, the opposite of the key indicator is when you're in pouring yourself into something, a work or relationship or whatever it is, and there's no energy coming back, you get into a negative feedback loop.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are working in flow or doing something in flow, it is so rewarding that it refuels you and you get into this positive feedback loop. And then understanding a positive feedback loop is one thing, but its impact on mental health
Yes.
is a complete other. So Adam Grant, organizational psychologist Adam Grant, I just got off of I did a virtual presentation for a big software as a service HR company.
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
And I got to do a session, virtual session yesterday, and I just listened to the keynote today, and it was Adam Grant. So it was like super fun to see him talking about like people being at their best. Like, how can you like bring your signature strengths to work? And so
Mhm.
during the pandemic, he wrote an article in the New York Times and he gave a TED talk about this. And he talked about the mental health spectrum and how halfway between depression and flourishing, there's a midway point where you're fine, but you're not fine.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
you're functional, but you can't get motivated. You're
Mm.
like in this state of suspension. And the word for that is languishing. And so,
Mm.
according to Adam Grant, the antidote to go from languishing to flourishing is to activate your flow state. And what he was talking about today was people who enter into a job, right? So when you have a new job, there's a job description already waiting for you. But he learned of some organizations that said, okay, once you're in for a certain period of time, we then ask you, how would you rewrite your own job description?
Mhm.
Because they recognize that that's somebody else's, right?
Mm.
And so it's my belief that how you uniquely get into flow is that core nugget of like what makes you tick. And
Absolutely.
why that's so meaningful for you is what makes you tick. And so when you know what that is and when you can define what that is for yourself, then you can what he was talking about today, Adam Grant, was you can job craft. You can literally go to an organization and say, okay, this is what I've done so far. This is where I think I could fit in. Does this meet organizational objectives? And does
Mhm.
this work well? Does this elevate my team? And if it's
Yes.
yes on all of these levels, then they're basically, this was like a model that he was talking about that an organization did to really help their people to just be in their signature strengths and really enjoy their work. And that's exactly what being in your flow state does.
Well, when I just another way of thinking the same thought, but I had this thought when I was reading your book is that to me, when I'm in flow, I feel like I'm doing what I was meant to do. And I remember in my 20s when I was, working jobs, at some point I said to myself, I just want someone to pay me for being me.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what we all want. We all want to be paid for doing what we do best. And that is whatever you do in flow, that's what you do best. That's you. That's you being paid for being you. That was
Oh,
my
come
thought on that.
on. It's supposed to be about self-sacrifice and hard work and being
No.
drained and having to recover. Isn't that the key to success?
No, and it's funny because, right, people ask me all the time, like, "How do you get up on stage and do what you do?" And I was like, "This is me. This is me." Like,
Yeah.
you have things that you do that I can't do. You should be paid for that.
And I love that you get it. Like you totally get it. And it's like being a musician, like we have the same amount of training as a brain surgeon. Do we get paid the same amount as a brain surgeon? No, right? We
Mhm,
play for a living.
mhm.
Oh, isn't that lovely? She gets to do what she loves, right? There's like a lot of stuff like that out there. But no, like it's time. I think that with the millennials and Gen Z and the what's the next one after that?
Oh.
That it's all about authenticity. It's
Yes.
all about being in your authenticity. That's how we're all going to be at our best and feel our best. And yeah, okay.
Yes. Okay, so, by the way, I do wanna say one quick thing because I just thought it was an interesting point. In your book, you mention that, right, when you're stressed, you tighten up both physically and mentally, and that there's some physical things you can do to help release that stress, and you mentioned the Achilles tendon massage,
Okay.
which I thought was so specific, I loved it.
Let's talk about that because before I really zoned in that the flow state was going to take care of everything, I was like doing a lot of research, like how can I stop myself from being so nervous at these events.
Mhm.
So when we are in fight or flight, our Achilles tendon, which attaches halfway up on the back of your calf.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other attachment is just underneath your heel. And so that tendon literally tightens up to help you to get ready to leap, to fight or flight.
Yeah, to
Right?
run.
It's a physical thing. So if I have the tiniest little, this is a really high precision instrument. And, if I'm going to go and speak somewhere and I have a tiny little quiver in my hand, so what? I don't care, right? A little bit
Right.
of adrenaline is fun,
Right.
you get all excited. But on the violin, that
It's
messes up
noticeable.
my fingers, right? I
Yeah.
have to have full control.
Mm-hmm.
So the Achilles, so when you massage your Achilles, I would do it up to 4 times a day before if I was, if it was a really high stakes performance that had some violin solos in the middle of the orchestra or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd get a lacrosse ball. It's kind of like a hard ball.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Get on the floor and roll out the Achilles up to 4 times a day.
Oh, wow.
The last thing I'd do right before I walked out on stage, and I would have no quivers in my hand. Another one is the so the bottom line, a physical reaction like a stress response is best met with a physical action.
Yes.
So these are the physical actions that worked the best for me. I'm sure there's many others. Obviously, there's breathing exercises and all kinds of things to do, but I've tried to pick the ones that I thought were not really known about, that really worked for me. So the Achilles tendon rub is one. The other one is, have you ever been in a meeting where all of a sudden, you just can't remember anything that you wanted to say, and then the second you leave, all of a sudden you remember everything?
Yes.
Okay. That's blood flow.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is the when you get if you're a sensitive person like me and you're going into a high stakes event, there's going to be some sort of hormonal reaction, and so the blood pools into the amygdala, which is where your fight or flight response lives. So all the blood goes there to serve you there. And it leaves the more external parts of your brain where all of those things that you wanted to say are stored.
Right.
And so literally when that blood releases, that's when all of a sudden you remember anything. And you're like, why am I such an idiot, right?
Right.
You're not. It's a physical response.
Right.
So this is hard to explain. On either side, so this is below your clavicle bone.
Okay.
If you go on either side of your sternum, in between the top 2 ribs, you should be able to find a little tender spot, maybe about the size of a dime or a nickel.
Yeah. I'm feeling it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's the one that you do as well.
Oh, interesting.
To keep the blood flow in your brain.
Oh, fascinating.
Apparently, they do this for coma patients.
Oh.
To keep the blood flow going. Now, if you have a scoop net shirt and you do this right before you go into an event or something,
you'll have red dots.
You might have 2 red dots.
Right. You can see.
Ask me how I know.
I'm starting to get red dots now for anyone who's watching the video podcast.
Well, that's good. You're showing everybody where to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another one of my bag of tricks.
Yeah. Another one too that I learned because I had a home birth, and one of the things that they recommend is to be sure to check your jaw, because a lot of us, when we're stressed, we tighten our jaw. And they said, moo like a cow, moo, to release the jaw. And you can feel it, all down your neck, really, when you release the jaw.
Interesting.
But apparently it also helps. They're like, if your jaw's tight, your cervix is tight, and there's no way the baby's coming out. So it was specific to birth, but I still find it helpful to just sometimes, when I'm feeling tense, I do feel I'm tightening my jaw, and I just, and that helps me.
And I would imagine if it's tight for a prolonged period of time, that's going to communicate to your brain and keep you in that state. Yeah. So it's like that release. Yeah.
It's probably constricting all sorts of blood flow too, right? Because the area that your jaw is located in. Okay, so one of the really interesting things that you talked about was about how flow, getting into flow is kind of meeting your skill level and difficulty level.
Oh, yes. Let's talk
Explain
about
that.
that. So this is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's discovery, or whatever. The at the intersection of skill and challenge and purpose is the universal entry point into flow. So think of your standard three-circle dot Venn diagram.
Sure,
Um,
I will show it for anyone
oh, here we
watching
go.
the video.
Skill, challenge, purpose.
Mhm.
So best way to describe, I'll just tell a story. I speak for a lot of HR conferences. I've done a lot of SHRM, for those of you who are familiar with SHRM, HR
Mhm.
conferences. So I was up in Alaska about a year ago, speaking to their SHRM group. And I talked about skill, challenge, and purpose. And as soon as the keynote was over, this gentleman from, he was the occupational safety consultant for the fishing industry in Alaska, which is huge. Okay.
Mm.
And he comes running up to me and he goes, "Oh my gosh, you gave me the solution to a problem. We have a high workplace injury rate in the fishing industry." And he described two jobs. Okay. One job is where people have to use this machine. They have to put like all of their strength into this thing to pull it down. And then there's like, it's processing the fish. And there's this window where you could see the processed fish accumulating. So you see the result of the work. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's one job. The other job, washing the fish. It's a conveyor belt. People stand next to the conveyor belt. They wash the fish. The people washing the fish are the ones that have the highest injury rates. Doesn't make sense, right?
Mhm.
But he says, oh, there is no skill, there is no challenge, and there is no purpose.
Mhm.
That is
Mhm.
why that job is the most problematic for workplace injuries. And so he
People are just
realized,
zoning out,
yeah.
bored.
So he realized that he needed to have them develop skills. He needed to figure out a way to challenge them and to give them purpose.
Mhm.
And he had this concept of gamifying it.
Mhm.
So if you think about it, the gaming industry is completely built on, you start a game, it's a little rough at first. You kind of like just learn the skill by playing the game over and over again. And just when you think you're like, yeah, I got this, all of a sudden, boom, new challenge. Okay.
Yes.
And when that challenge comes in, once again, you rise to the occasion, which is what
Mhm.
happens. Like the neurobiology of flow, those peak performance hormones actually literally help you to rise to the occasion. And you get that dopamine hit, right? And the problem with just having skill and challenge, so that what we're aiming at here is that when you're just outside of your comfort zone, that's when you ignite flow. That's when you get pulled forward. And to me, I like to describe it as the giant suck forward. It's like following the breadcrumbs. I don't know where I'm going. This is stretching me, right? You're in
Right.
this growth zone, right? And so you so in the gaming industry, people get addicted to games, right? Because of
Mhm.
the dopamine hit.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
what's missing is purpose. That's what's
Mm.
missing from that. The purpose piece is what grounds it. And so there was an architect who was at one of my audiences. She came up to me afterwards and she says, okay, there's a bunch of architects in our firm who are behind on their licensing exams. And because of this, it's creating gridlock in our ability to actually get the work out to the clients. Like it was a big
Mm.
deal. And she used this as an assessment tool, skill, challenge, purpose. She's like, okay, they have the skills. They have the skills. I know my colleagues. They have the skills. They can rise up to the challenge. And she said, but I realized they don't have a purpose.
Mm.
We don't have a really incentivizing purpose for them to do this. And she says, and I am somebody who has completed this exam, and I will tell you, it is the hardest of all of them. And she realized that purpose piece was the missing piece to really activate them into, right, learning quicker. Oh, I forgot the best statistics. People in flow increase productivity 500%, learning speed 250%, and creativity 600%. And this was a decade-long study by McKinsey and Company on how of people working in flow, and those are the statistics that they came up with.
And it
So
could be any industry. I
yeah.
mean, I remember it's funny you talk about fishing, but there's a really famous productivity gamification workplace culture book called Fish, right? That's
Oh.
about the fish market up
Oh.
in Washington.
Okay.
And they're famous for throwing their fish. And I was thinking about how like the fish throwing is probably adding some skill and challenge.
Oh, and fun.
Yeah, and fun to what would otherwise be like a boring could be a boring environment.
Yeah.
Okay, we're over time, but I really want to
Oh
do
my gosh.
one last thing
So
because this
fun.
was so helpful for everyone. Is you describe how to find your flow and also how to bring that flow into your work environment. So you talk about where, what, why, and I would love for you to give the story about the skier, the person who loved to ski and how he brought
Oh.
that in.
Oh, that story. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So where, what, why?
So first of all, interruptions are the number one killer of flow, which is why I made the door hanger.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, so interruptions are the number one killer of
Let
flow.
me just hang that right here.
Ah.
Oh,
So
wrong way.
we are in our flow. I have a friend who does podcasts, and she said that she puts this on her door before every podcast, so her phone doesn't come barging in. Okay, this gentleman came up to me again after an HR conference, and he said, "Okay, I don't know how I get into flow at work." And I said, "Well, where do you get in flow?" And he goes, "Oh, it's on the ski slope." I was like, "Okay, well, what are you doing?" So, where are you? So the three questions are where, what, why. So where are you? Going skiing, right? He's on the ski slope. What are you doing? Okay, so he says, I get onto the lift and I have a routine. Like, I have a way to meticulously clean off my mask. I set up a playlist, get on my earbuds, and by the time I get that all rigged up, I'm at the top, jump off. So what he's doing is he's just kind of cleaning up and getting organized and kind of setting the stage. That's what he's doing. And then he jumps off, and then he becomes one with the snow on the way down, right? So why it's so meaningful for him, I don't remember. Did it say in the book? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, so why was it so?
Sorry.
I think it was freedom, something along with this feeling of freedom and joy. So so what we did is as soon as we figured that out, he says, "Oh, wait a minute. I do that at work all the time." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I don't know why, but I have to clean off my desk. Like I have to just have, like I clean my desk off. And then I take out one project. I turn on the music and I lock the door." Okay? So for him, it's the environment. He creates an environment. It's the where. Like he really creates an environment. For some people, it's like what? Like, and when I talk about what are you doing, I talk about like, so when I'm playing the violin, where I am is on stage, right? What am I doing? On the outside, I'm playing the violin. On the inside, I'm sharing. It's like when I read out loud to my son, sharing the message, sharing the experience. And why is that so meaningful for me? Well, there's something about music that unifies people. Like, when you have like thousands of people together, you know, coming together just to hear music, like I have tears in my eyes. There's something about unity that just like blows me away. I did a walk for Alzheimer's, you know, thousands of people. I'm crying. Like there's something about unifying people that really moves me. So why it's so meaningful. So if I'm having an off day and I'm like, how do I get back into flow? It's like, I have to share. and I have to remember this quality of unity, that how this can unify people. And that's what I call a flow strategy. And so in my book, or if you, my offer for people is, I will be happy to do a free coaching session with you if you want to figure out how you individually
Wow.
get into flow. And if you want to learn how, if you want to discuss business strategy, like how would you apply this at your workplace, if you want to create a culture based on flow, it's a really easy link. It's meetwithdianeallen.com. So that is my offer for you. And then, of course, you can get the book on Amazon. But yeah, I don't have the door hangers for sale. You can just email me.
So meetwithdianeallen.com.
.com.
And I will put that in the show notes as well for people to find, so they can see it there as well.
You guys, we have, Allegra and I have hardly scratched the surface. Oh, thank you. I see you posted that. Like we have, she and I could talk for hours.
Yes.
And if I didn't have a meeting in a few minutes, we probably would still be talking. But,
Exactly.
But anyways, I'm so grateful to be here with all of you today. If you could unlock your genius and love what you do, it's gonna just really help you to weather storms, to feel like yourself, to be in your authenticity, to refuel yourself, to prevent yourself from burning out, you name it.
And share your gifts.
Yes.
I always think, what would the world be like if everyone was doing the thing that they're best at? Like, how much more amazing? Like, that makes me cry when I think about that.
I was at an event last week, and it opened up by saying, the word responsibility means your response to your ability. And if you are not responding to that ability, like when we are talking about being in your flow state, we are really honoring your, like a full honoring response to your abilities.
Yes, I love that.
Mic drop.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. And please take Diane up on her offer at Meet with Diane Allen. That's ALLEN.com for anyone who's just listening to the podcast. And it will be in the show notes as well, so you can find it there. Get her book. And it's a workbook. I fully approve of the size and format of Diane's book. And yes, be sure to join me the next couple of weeks. Next week, I'm going to be chatting with some of my best friends about the holiday season, because that's coming up. And also be sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening. And remember, planning makes everything easier. See you next week. Thanks.